My name is Jeff Mucci. I'm with RCR Wireless News. Thank you for joining us today. Today's topic on RCR Mobilist series is mobile cloud. We've got several wonderful guests today, starting with Roberta Prescott, who's Editor-in-Chief of RCR Wireless News in Latin America. She's also our Editor-in-Chief for ICT globally. We have Camille Mendler, who's Principal Analyst from Informa, Telecoms and Media. And finally, we have Eric Troyer, who's Global Director of Mobile Data and IP Peering with Equinix, who is our sponsor today. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Roberta Prescott. Roberta, please turn on your webcam, join us today, and talk a little bit about the feature report that you published last week. I've got a picture of it here I'm going to show that talks about mobile cloud. And why don't you spend a few minutes talking about your findings and some of the folks you interviewed and the process you went through to put together that report.
Sure, Jeff. Hello. So we just released a future report named Mobile Set for Huge Impact on the Cloud. The main idea of this future report was to write about how mobile cloud is addressing and impacting enterprise and carriers. So what I did is I interviewed some of the main vendors, analysts, and carriers who are impacted for this new trend. The point is that as cloud computing becomes more mature and ubiquitous, mobile cloud is emerging as next trend set to impact not only enterprise IT management, but also the wireless world. Indeed, mobile cloud can present opportunities for carriers along with challenges. So what I can say about the scenario that we see today is that users are demanding mobile access to have more devices than ever before, and we can notice it by the bring your own device trend, for example, as well as IT consumerization. So from the enterprise point of view, employees and C-levels, they want to have access to their data wherever they are, and it is a challenge for IT organization and IT teams because they have to provide this, not only the application, but they have to ensure that the connectivity is good enough to employees access these data. So this scenario is creating the high growth and the need for service providers to develop multiple mobile access by multitude of devices. And we are not saying that it's just a PC, smartphones, or tablet. It is a combination of all of them. And regarding the mobile, the cloud computing scenario, there's some, I just attended an event when the specialist in theoretical physics named Miki Kaku, he made a very fair and interesting comparison between how cloud computing will increase and improve to become similar to what we have today as with energy. It just appear and we have it wherever we are, and it's available. So several analysts and just futurists believe that in the near future we will see this. Cloud computer will be everywhere. So it's very natural that everything comes mobile. And in addition, mobile, it makes no sense if there is not data or there is no internet access. So other analysts also think that mobile, cloud, social, and information, they are all connected. And mobile, cloud, and social, and information, again, they will provide this next stage of cloud computing. So, and in this scenario, we see some drivers. I've already talked about the BIOG trend, and we also have the unified communication trend. Everything is going to be connected and release it to the enterprise and making them together. And another driver for mobile cloud is the explosion of mobile subscribers. We see more people with smartphones than people in countries, and mobile devices are becoming smarter and friendly, so it drives more traffic. People want to use more data. And during the interviews, I touched the two sides of the mobile cloud, which I believe is the most important, one from enterprise and one for carrier size, and the whole environment of it with industry players, vendors, observers, what they think about it. And I pick up some challenges that we can figure out for the future of mobile cloud. And one that was very highlighted is the mobile internet broadband. We have some countries and some part of the world where mobile internet broadband are very good and high speed, but in others, for example, it is still an issue. And so how carriers and service providers will ensure that this network and this internet broadband will be good enough to provide the service to enterprises. And from enterprise, from IT organization point of view, we have compliance, we have governance, we have security, we have privacy policies. That all concerns when they are building some mobile cloud strategy, how they are going to empower employees to use their mobile phones to access corporate data. Will that be secure and a secure environment, and how they can make it easier for the employees to access. And regarding all of this, I can say that the next step of cloud computing means that it needs to become mobile ready. Looking at the IT point of view, it becomes the interoperability issues, because several clouds, private, public, hybrid, they will have to be connected and they will have to talk to each other in a way that they are going to be ubiquitous and everywhere. So when looking at this in scenario, we have some opportunities for carriers. And carriers, in the same way that they have challenges to figure, such as network, internet broadband, and how they can improve their networks to support all these new demands, there are also a lot of opportunities for carriers. Why don't telecom operators, for example, provide this mobile cloud, provide a mobile solution, build everything together, use what they have to offer to enterprise around the globe, so they can take advantage of mobile cloud trend and design new products. One side of it is that carriers have big data centers, so why couldn't then combine, for example, network with a cloud-based service, some applications, so starting with collaboration, unified communication, and offering these in packages to enterprises. So at the end, I saw that besides all challenges that we have had, mobile cloud is here, and we are going to see more and more of it from all perspectives, and there is a huge opportunities for that. Jeff?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Roberta. I enjoyed reading the report, and we're going to talk about some of the key quotes from Google and some of the other, and our next speaker, by the way. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Camille Mendler, who is with Informa. Camille, thanks for joining us today.
Hi there, I hope you can hear me.
I think Roberta, I can hear you fine. Roberta touched on the telcos and their move into mobile cloud, and you recently had a blog regarding telcos and software as a service. So maybe we could pick up there and talk a little bit about your blog, and along the way talk about some of the other trends that you're seeing in the mobile
Sure, well,
cloud.
thanks very much for this opportunity. Yes, Camille Mendler, I'm a principal analyst here at Informa Telecoms and Media, and I have been I guess tracking this collision of alien worlds, the worlds of IT and telecom, for the past 5 years, I think. And it's been a very interesting journey. I must say that a lot of the work that I do is focused on service providers, and that's from a very core belief that communication service providers have an opportunity to dominate cloud services if they get their act together. I'm tracking about 200 of them around the world in terms of what they are doing, in terms of their service portfolio. I'm interviewing enterprises. I'm just seeing what is actually happening in terms of whether service providers are delivering what enterprises, large and small, actually need. And I've got to say that I'm here with one single purpose, and that is to advocate joined-up thinking. And that's joined up thinking in terms of what service providers say they want to achieve and what they're delivering. And let me give you an example of that. Every year, at the end of the year, and I'm sure, in fact, I'm pretty sure their RCR Wireless does this too. We ask everyone, amongst our clients around the world, what their hopes and aspirations are for the following year. So for 2013, we did that. And amongst the service providers, and we interviewed 240 of them around the world, and we said, what are your aspirations and what are your expectations for top-line growth? And it's interesting that in #1 position was LTE, mobile technology, mobile broadband, as Roberta mentioned, and #2 on the list in top-line growth expectation, what would drive top-line revenue growth, was cloud. So that's very interesting, and I'm glad to hear service providers say that. But in the analysis of the application, the practice versus the theory, what is troubling to me, and this is based on a very large study that we've just completed, is that 80% of the services being offered by telcos in the software as a service space is targeted at a white-collar worker sitting at a desk, at a PC, in a traditional office. Now, does that sound right to you, with those types of aspirations? And if broadband, and particularly mobile broadband, is so important, why is it then that barely a third of service providers bundle a cloud service, whatever it may be in software as a service, with broadband? So there's a major disconnect that's happening in terms of execution of strategy, but equally important from the enterprises that we have also surveyed in terms of need. So in terms of the mobile applications that happen to be cloud-based, there's really quite a lot we can talk about on the agenda: mobile security, mobile device management, mobile collaboration, video enriched for that matter. Enterprises, large and small, want a cloud want to have access to a cloud in their pocket, and that's not necessarily happening in terms of the service portfolio being developed by service providers today. And that is not, to me, that's almost criminal, a criminal waste of an opportunity. So I think there's work that needs to be done in the portfolio of cloud services. I think there's also work in segmentation. I mean, is the target purely a white-collar worker sitting in an office? I think not. And also, I think there's a great deal of work and understanding of what the mechanics are of delivering, supporting mobile cloud services, because it's not trivial. It's going to need investment in certain types of infrastructure, but also communication between different types of infrastructure. So the role of a traditional telco function known as interconnect, sounds very dull, is actually critical in delivering mobile cloud services. So that's also very relevant as we move to a software-defined world, as a software-defined networking environment. So there's a fundamental challenge that happens not just in the go-to-market, but also in the infrastructure. And quite frankly, I think that service providers are taking a soft and easy route. Soft and easy route of developing a portfolio that is an easier one to deal with, because you know, delivering a service in a fixed office, consuming a cloud-based service from an office is really quite a different situation from being in the field. And I think there's a lot of need out there for mobile cloud services. A few examples, and I'm not going to talk about white-collar workers. Let's talk about blue-collar workers. So if you are a plumber or you are a florist, your customers are depending on you to deliver, either arrive on time for that appointment or to deliver that product. So, you know, a mobile worker tracking service is a particularly relevant, I think, type of service. Or if you are doing a lot of order entry, you need to have forms that are accessible through a mobile. And what if you're trying to fix a problem, which might be, I don't know, a broken pipe, or the electricity system is down? You might need to show someone what the problem is and collaborate with the home office while you're in the field. And so here, mobile collaboration and video collaboration is absolutely critical. And there are not enough of these services being offered. But interestingly, in the analysis that I've done, which looked at more than 1,000 software as a service propositions around the world in 38 different countries, it is in emerging markets that you see a more sophisticated understanding of what mobile cloud services can be, should be, to a richer group of potential end users amongst enterprises that are not necessarily just the largest, but the smallest. So, as I said, my intent in coming here and talking silos within service providers to deliver on their hopes and expectations for 2013. I've stunned you into silence here.
Thanks for those insights. I'm going to ask you. No. We're still with you. I'm going to ask Roberta to jump back on. I know she had a question or two for you, and she definitely interviewed you as she was putting together her feature report. Roberta, I'll open it up to you and ask away.
Great. So, Camille, I was just wondering, how do you think carriers should address the mobile cloud? You said about the emergence market. I live in Brazil. I figure out how Brazilians and Latin America people love to be with their mobile phones and to be reaching data and connected all the time. So maybe it's easier way, but how do you think carriers should embrace mobile cloud and provide it?
Well, it's about building portfolios that that allow for taking over a number of business processes and moving them into the cloud. Now, clearly, collaboration tools, productivity tools have got to be #1 on the list. So if you look at the opportunity in terms of services that telcos can offer, it's like an inverted pyramid where at the top you have productivity and collaboration tools. You've got mobile security, critical for you to be able to do things like device lock and wipe. And also storage. Multimedia storage should be part of the proposition, because actually not everyone has got, tier 3, tier 4 data centers. I know that Equinix has spent hundreds of millions of dollars building such things, but many enterprises certainly don't have that. And so we have to, in fact, in many cases, there's a better service level agreement that you may obtain in the mobile cloud or the cloud in general than you can from doing things yourself. So I think those types of tools are very relevant. But equally, you mentioned, you're in Brazil, one of the most exciting markets in the world. And, if the consumer, let alone the small business, is so mobile dependent, then you've got to think about how a business process, let's say like marketing, should be delivered on a mobile platform in a mobile way. So if you are marketing yourself, you should make sure that you have a website that is mobile accessible, that you can do mobile messaging marketing campaigns. There are all sorts of ways that you can do business in a more efficient way. Does that give you a few clues that you might agree with?
Definitely. And but you mentioned the unified communication and some collaboration programs, and
Yes.
so do you believe carriers will start to address this market through the SMBs, the small and medium business? And another question, sorry, is that you comment about the broadband, and we also have the latency, because sometimes the content is far from people that are providing the content and who are accessing the same data.
Yes, so those are very good points. So now, unified communications and collaboration is the #1 proposition for all service providers today, but how many actually support a range of mobile devices, be it tablets, smartphones, whatever it may be. So that's one thing that needs to be addressed, Folia. But also you need to have optimized infrastructure. And we talk about latency. We need to start talking about investing in content distribution. You need to, because there is a fundamental competitive differentiator in many ways that one can assert by being able to load a mobile website faster and enabling mobile video collaboration. Now that involves a number of different things, a number of different moving parts. And that means having the right type of mobile backhaul infrastructure. And I can tell you that this is where money is being made in carrier Ethernet. Carrier Ethernet is growing because the need for mobile backhaul improvement is growing because of needs for data center interconnect. And speaking of interconnect, we also need better systems, standards, and processes to manage and prioritize content and streams of content like live video that is being consumed and created through mobile networks. So all of that has to work together. Of course, it's terribly easy. I mean, I'm joking here, but the solutions are out there. It's about prioritizing what needs to be done in investments.
Okay. Well, let's, Roberta, what I'd like to do now is let's introduce our sponsored guest today, Eric Troyer, and from Equinix. And right now we're going to queue up a video from Equinix. So let's turn that one on real quick.
In 1998, internet traffic was exploding, overwhelming legacy infrastructure. Equinix founders realized the solution lay in creating neutral hubs, where competing networks could physically exchange traffic, quickly scale, and maximize performance. Today, that vision extends far beyond its origin, enabled by each new layer of innovation that came before. With the rise of digital convergence, social media, cloud services, and mobile applications, not to mention the skyrocketing financial data volumes, our increasingly interconnected economies and cultures are ever more dependent on our ability to transmit, exchange, process, and store increasingly massive amounts of data. Over the years, Equinix saw these waves of change coming and moved to enable entire industries with the ability to harness their power, not to be overwhelmed. We've invested billions to meet demand, so business can both collaborate and compete on a level playing field. Interconnections inside the data center reduce bandwidth costs and maximize throughput, while ecosystems of choice drive new opportunities and maximize innovation. We will continue to invest in that future, anticipating our customers' needs and engineering solutions that meet the challenges presented by the unceasing demand for ever greater throughput. Equinix is a global interconnection platform of network-rich data centers, vibrant digital cities where economies of scale enable a brilliant future. From our unique vantage point, Equinix has an unparalleled view of what came before and what lies ahead. And because we can see just beyond the horizon, we can prepare for changes many may not even realize are on the way. All of which means we're ready, building for the future.
Okay, so thank you for that video, Eric. Thanks for joining us today. Where are you? I think you're in an airport, and I think you're a testament to the bring your own device and mobile cloud. So where are you today?
I am indeed. Greetings from Atlanta Hartsfield International Airport, where this was not planned, completely unplanned, but definitely proving the point that mobile connectivity and applications out on the road are very important to what we're doing today. And thank you for your time and allowing me to join the webcast today.
Well, why don't you spend a minute just from your point of view talking about what you do in your role as Global Director of Mobile Data and IP Peering for Equinix, and then I've got a couple questions for you that actually I'm going to hold to the round table. But talk about your role and then some of the things that you're seeing out in the market today.
Sure, great. My background really started in wireline around the original Internet revolution when the Internet was passed on into commercial ownership, and cable companies and broadband access networks were trying to find their way on how they're going to scale all this capacity. And as a former customer of Equinix several times running networks and doing IP peering for major cable companies, what we found is that finding the right location to connect with the various networks that comprise the Internet, with the applications that drive utilization, including things like cloud, things like social networking as well. Having the right location to connect those things together is imperative to performance. And so as someone who designed networks before, with the idea of trying to create multiple vectors out to as many locations as possible, with the idea as Camille had mentioned before earlier in the webinar, about reducing latency and replicating content and applications as close to end users as possible. Really, that's the foundation of the work that I've been involved with on the wireline side. So logically speaking, it makes sense that as the wireless revolution continues to grow, that same connectivity principle, that idea of multi-homing and creating the best connectivity options is equally, if not more important for mobile applications, given things like the inherent latency within the radio protocol stack or within the packet core stack. So solving for latency, ironing out the connectivity, and creating shortcuts for how a device gets to an application or how a user gets to that application is at the forefront of what we do with Equinix.
Got it. Well, thank you, Eric. At this time, I'd like to bring Roberta and Camille back on, and we can talk, move into the roundtable section of this call. Okay, thank you for joining us. Roberta, I'm going to start with in your report, you talked about an analyst, I believe it was Gartner, who mentioned that mobile cloud was this nexus force. What did they mean by that? And then I'd like to get feedback from the others in terms of how mobile cloud is becoming this nexus force.
Good. Yes, it is Gartner. Gartner indeed has been with this speech for about a year or two. What they are saying mostly to CIOs is that the connection of this mobile, cloud, social, and information at the nexus of forces. And what they mean by that is that CIOs must to drive strategy to address all these needs, because all combined, these four forces will drive future of IT.
Okay, I muted myself briefly there. I think it's interesting when you look at, and by the way, Eric, I spent early in my career a lot of time on the wireline side as well, as we went from a TDM world to an IP world back at the what seems like the turn of the century, but it was really of the 2000 era. But Camille, I'm going to come back to you, and you talked about this force and binding the cloud to the network layer. What are some of the challenges with that, and what does it really mean to bind cloud services with the network layer, particularly around the wireless and mobile services?
Okay, well, that's an easy question. It does mean a few things, but let me start with what it means for customers. It means a completely different type of layer of key performance indicators of service level agreements, it is no longer acceptable for you to commit, if you're a service provider, to an enterprise to provide us to actually just provide a service. You can't be binary about saying, well, I've delivered this service, it's either on or it's off. It's about the quality of that service. It's about moving to experiential type of performance indicators. And I mean beyond latency. I mean, latency is a term that we think we know fairly well, but does the application work well? Is there a stutter? You know, what is the issue with the video, let's say, for example? How you achieve that is, as I tried to say before, you know, the integration of a number of moving parts, and that is having an understanding of the application's fundamental performance needs and being able to deliver capacity, be it in this case connectivity, be it mobile connectivity, to support that particular stream of content or interaction. And that's going to change over time. It's going to change by location. It's going to change by company and individual. So we need an efficient way to do that. And you can't really do that either on a bilateral basis. You need to find the best route and the best optimization for the quality of service that is required for a particular application. So we need some level of formal, I think, centralization of hubbing, and there are let's say in the wholesale market, ways that telcos have worked for a number of years, but we need to be a bit more sophisticated about what these exchange points need to do in terms of it's less about plugging capacity, you know, between different CSPs in a data center, in a carrier hotel, let's say. It's agreeing a series of interconnection standards, as well as committing to standards and service levels to that end customer. Does that make sense? I hope that does. So we need to work a little bit more on that level as well.
Okay. And Eric, when you first sit down with a mobile operator and they peel the onion back and start understanding what your company really does, what are some of the examples of aha moments when they really learn how you can help fuse their network with content and the mobile cloud?
Well, I think what Camille said is very important. This notion that IP just isn't good enough for cloud connectivity is absolutely true even on the wireline side of the business. We talked a little bit about things like carrier Ethernet before. The idea that an enterprise or a cloud services user can actually tack up a layer 2 circuit from their shiny metal building downtown where their use base is, or from satellite offices, can go directly into a cloud instance is imperative to that quality of service that's necessary to make cloud work like it's installed locally, quite frankly. So that idea of the interconnection being guaranteed at layer 2 versus routing it out just generally to the public internet is very important for cloud adoption across the board, regardless of the access mechanism. But certainly within the wireless space, that becomes ever more important as we talked about, you know, latency within the packet core itself. If you can iron out and create a shortcut to where that application resides, it's very important. So when a mobile network operator comes in and talks with Equinix, we talk about several things on mobile enablement.
I was going to interject you and give you an example, which is, you know, if I get kicked out of this office, which isn't likely, I would like to take this experience and put it on my laptop. I mean, on my mobile phone. And why not provide that seamless service? Here is next.
Well, one of the important aspects of cloud as well is that it's not just a one-to-one relationship any longer. It's a multi-API scenario these days. It's very rare that you find a one-stop shop that does every single thing that you need for an enterprise application. They're out there, certainly, but even those applications make API calls to other cloud service providers. And so this idea of connectivity looks more like Metcalfe's law. It's more along the idea of in square. The value of a network is in square the number of nodes. This is very similar to the API construct within cloud as well. So when we talk with mobile network operators, we discuss multiple different ideas. The idea of mobile backhaul to towers, because when you look within the Equinix data center, all the major wireline providers are there. So if you're looking for on-net access to a lit building that has a tower in some metro, we're a great place to facilitate carrier Ethernet interconnection through things like our Ethernet exchange. So that being on one side of the supply chain. On the other side of the supply chain, you even have elements of over-the-top. So an example that we've launched at Equinix is Amazon Direct Connect. So getting to mobile applications that have been bootstrapped in cloud environments within Amazon themselves. So this idea that you can take a layer 2 circuit from your packet core and directly drop it off into the Amazon compute environment is very important for creating high availability and low latency. So that would be one example.
Camille, does that make sense?
It does make sense, absolutely. And this is where competition and differentiation can exist for service providers that understand this reality. And I was just reflecting, just reading Eric's biography, that he and I bear the scars of the Enron era. Whilst he was working at a company called Carrier One 10 years or so ago, I was working for one called iAccess, and both of us were building pan-European fiber networks. Unfortunately, so are about 15 other people. 15 other organizations, nearly all of which failed. Why? Because there was no fundamental differentiation in what one was buying. This has to be the way forward, to differentiate, not on the fact that you can connect, big deal. It's how you connect, the speed at which you can connect, the quality at which you connect. That is what matters, because I can tell you this, I don't want that happening again. I don't want enterprises and consumers to be disappointed, let alone the investors and lots of people out of their jobs in the service provider community. Because 2013 is going to be a tough year for everyone, potentially.
Yeah.
Not to be negative, also.
So, Roberta, I'm gonna jump over to you, and you spent quite a bit of time putting this report together and conducting a webinar last week. So I'm gonna hand off to you, perhaps, to ask our guest a few questions.
So great. I would just add for what they say. So what I understood also is that the demand exists. So what carriers need to do is to find ways to provide it well to their customers, right? Do you agree? Great. So, and you talk, Camille,
well, they
about
need to understand their customers a bit better.
Yeah, sure. And also, I have two questions that I think would be very nice to ask you. It's, in your opinion, in what stage are we today related to mobile cloud adoption? And if we look over the next 5 years, how do you think this mobile cloud scenario will change?
I think that it varies enormously by country and region in terms of usage of mobile cloud services. It's easy to say that, oh, you know, developed markets are far more advanced. That's because they have access to many, potentially to mobile cloud services. But actually, when I consider that what could change immediately, in a year or less, I still think today that I see more innovation and the potential for a fundamental change of how people interact and use mobile cloud services in emerging markets because of the great dependence on mobile devices, the lack of that fixed infrastructure, the fact that people will grow up mobile and cloud from day one, in far younger economies and far younger demographics in terms of population. So in even 5 years, in fact in less than that, I think we're going to see countries like Kenya lead, I think, and they're a particularly poor economy. I think we're already going to see a lot of middle-income economies, I think, leading the way. I look at some services that are available today in Malaysia, in the Philippines, and I'm expecting more from Latin America, from from countries in your neck of the woods, Roberta, as well. It hasn't happened yet. There's been perhaps less of an impetus. So I'm actually expecting that perhaps the greater level of sophistication and usage of mobile cloud services may come from smaller enterprises in emerging markets that are consuming and entirely dependent on mobile cloud services, rather than it being a choice in the developed market. Those are my thoughts.
If I could add to that, I would argue that emerging markets probably embraced mobile cloud before anyone else. If you look at things like proxy-based browsing, things like Opera mini browser as an example, with feature phones, this idea that the browser's horsepower actually sits out in a hosted environment, and what we would call today a cloud environment, is taking in data from major content sources, transcoding, compressing, and then shipping it out to the feature phone. And this is done because of low horsepower handsets, but also in some cases because the wireless infrastructure is still very thin pipe in some of those locations. So arguably, they've been doing mobile cloud well before advanced enterprises have been doing it.
Great, but regarding the challenges from the whole industry that drives mobile cloud, looking into this emergence market, I see that there is a lot of ground to grow related to increase networks and to increase internet mobile broadband. How do you think, it seems to be a little controversial that emergence markets can lead mobile cloud while they have some qualities to address regarding networks. How do you see this duality?
Well, I would say to you that you need to look at who is saying that they're going to invest in mobile infrastructure, and the fact that some service providers may decide to jump ahead to a 4G type of environment, and that it may happen a lot faster than you may expect. So yes, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but once the investment has been made, there's going to be a leapfrog effect. And that's why I'm willing to come out and say that I believe that emerging markets can lead in mobile cloud. And that the next 2-3 years, as we see these LTE rollouts, are going to prove the point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Roberta, any other questions before we go around the horn and wrap up today's program?
I think we could just finalize it with some perspectives from Eric and Camille about what are their feelings regarding mobile cloud. We talk here a lot of emerging marketing and opportunity for carriers, but if you need to pick up 1 or 2 challenges and opportunity, what would they be?
Well, just thinking about the work that I've recently done, I would say one of the biggest issues for service providers is understanding that their customer base is not always, and their greatest opportunity to differentiation is perhaps not with an enterprise customer base that's purely based in an office, but fundamentally on the move. And it's from thinking about workers on the move that you build the portfolio. Because the reality today is that most of the services are to the lowest common denominator, generic, undifferentiated, and to someone that's fundamentally fixed. And that's the dynamic that they need to address right now.
Eric, your thoughts?
Sure. I guess adding to that, interoperability is still an important part of what's happening. There's no one network that covers the entire globe. So if you have a global workforce or a global customer base that's looking to get access to applications in the cloud, you also have to consider wireline connectivity. Who are your partners on the mobile side? Who are your partners on the wireline side? Interconnection between wireline and wireless assets, non-3GPP networks, is important because in a lot of cases, accessing a cloud application is done, I think, as Camille and Roberta said originally on the webinar, through multiple different types of devices, not just through handsets. And those multiple different types of devices are getting onto things like Wi-Fi networks, or they're coming from a WiMAX network somewhere, or they're plugging into an Ethernet port through some adapter somehow. So this idea of the merging of non-3GPP networks to wireless networks is important. The interoperability aspect along the lines of IPX as an emerging standard coming out of the GSMA is important. The idea that KPIs can be introduced into things like an IPX framework for connectivity, you start to see down the line that IPX looks like it could potentially be a very interesting mechanism for allowing the ASPs to connect into the packet core of mobile networks with the appropriate amount of QoS and KPIs in place to allow for the differentiation that Camille's referring to. So interoperability and that ability for things like KPIs to be cascaded throughout the communication path are going to be very important.
And if we could actually agree to standardize on a proper, in terms of execution of IP interconnect, these IPX exchanges, that would be a very good thing. And in fact, this week in Montreal, a number of service providers in what's known as the I3 Forum, which represents 47 different service providers, I think they collectively have 1.5 billion mobile subscribers between them, to try to push along standards. So it's not just the GSMA, it's the 20-odd different companies that are providing IPX services today, perhaps not all in the same way, and building a bridge of understanding and a common service interface to the enterprises as well. Work to be done, not finished yet.
Well, we're out of time today, but I do want to thank each of our guests for joining us. I'm going to go around, just get your yes or no answer. I'll start with Roberta, then Camille, and then Eric. But do you think the carriers will get their arms around mobile cloud and in the next 12 months find traction, and it doesn't matter from a consumer or enterprise standpoint, and really start embracing and rolling out successful product offerings? Roberta, what's your kind of 2 cents there?
In Latin America, I see carriers embracing already cloud computing, providing them to enterprise. But yes, I think mobile cloud is maybe in their roadmap. I don't know if in next year, but I think they are embracing it, yes, already.
So Camille, next 12 months, we're going to see any real traction?
Well, let's put it this way. If service providers don't address these interconnect issues, if they don't address the issues around mobile cloud services that actually fit what customers want, it's not an issue of delivering on top-line growth expectations, it's defending the revenues that they've got. It is absolutely critical for these issues to be dealt with through various divisions of service providers, from those dealing with interconnect to those that are building service portfolios for large enterprises and the very smallest. So I hope that that is indeed on the agenda for 2013. And judging from some service providers I've spoken to, it is indeed there, but there are more that need to be convinced.
Okay. Eric, final word. They're going to get there in 2013, and if so, what part of the world do you think you'll see it?
Well, I can echo. We're getting the sense as well through direct conversations with customers that this is on the roadmap, it's important, and it's being prioritized. What else is equally important, though, is the interoperation with other cloud service providers, with third-party cloud elements, with other SaaS-oriented applications. So the notion that it's all going to be behind one specific walled garden, I think there's a general realization across the board these days that that just doesn't work. So in addition to rolling out their differentiated cloud services, figuring out how to work with some of the, you want to call it, the best applications that are out there today that already have great adoption, trying to figure out how to get better connectivity to them is definitely important as well. And that's part of what Equinix is doing with, in working with the GSMA on the IPX standard in creating co-location facilities that sit on all the major fiber routes that bring in the right mix of customers that have the right applications that end users want to get to, and creating that centralized hub service. So we're very bullish on that, and we expect 2013 to see a lot more of that kind of interconnection happening.
Eric, again, I want to thank you for joining the program today. And I want to thank all of our guests for joining us today. And I tend to agree that 2013, they have to defend their customers. They have to defend their revenue sources. They have to embrace and lead on some of these services. Having just made the rounds on the fall trade show schedules, including the Informa LT event in Dallas, by the way, I hear a lot about MDM. So maybe MDM will be one of the places you'll start to see some incremental traction. But thank you again for joining us today. And again, thank you, Eric, for your underwriting in today's program.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.